With the recent WB Games Montreal rumors seemingly pointed towards a May announcement of an Arkham title featuring the Court of Owls as the main villains, I figured now is the best time for me to discuss what forgotten or underused villains I would like to see make up the bulk of the side missions this time around in a hypothetical Arkham title. Now, without further ado, let's begin with the 6 villains who have been teased the most in the Arkhamverse thus far, but have yet to physically show up in person.
First up on my villain wish list is the Ventriloquist. Arnold Wesker is someone who really should have shown up by now. He's been teased ever since Arkham Asylum, and it's a damn shame he has yet to show up in person, despite having cameos even in the Arkham comics. The Ventriloquist is one of those characters who you feel bad for on some level, but their interactions with Scarface are so entertaining and disturbing, you can't look away, and that's one of the main reasons I want to see the Ventriloquist. Just to see their interactions with Scarface. Now, I don't see a lot of boss potential with this character, but I could see one of two options. Either having a really intense Predator sequence against the Ventriloquist and his goons, or Scarface hiring one of the local low-level supervillains in Gotham to act as his muscle.
The next character on the list I won't go into much detail about, as I don't have a whole lot to say despite wanting to see them show up, and that would be Warren White, aka the Great White Shark. Warren is one of those characters with a great backstory, a really good look, who really doesn't do much in comics. His best comic is his introduction, and outside of that, he's mainly been relegated to cameos and bit parts. I think he would work best in this hypothetical Arkham title, filling the Penguin role as the main gun runner on whatever island of Gotham this takes place in. I could see him trying to muscle in on Cobblepot's territory, alongside whatever racketeering scheme he has on the side to make a quick buck. I'm hoping the Arkham games give him a more flushed out personality, as I don't think he has that much of one outside of his shark theme, and even then it's not a huge thing for his character. Up next on my villain wish list is none other than the Ratcatcher. Now, I was introduced to this character thanks to Arkham Asylum, and I've loved his character design ever since, but I was really given more info on the character thanks to the YouTube channel Gotham Rogues, aka Mr. Rogues. Go check him out, he does great work. But that's besides the point right now. The Ratcatcher is a character who is just so full of potential for stories nowadays that I really wish DC would use him more often. And especially in the Arkhamverse, he could be an absolute monster. Now, they have a few storylines that they could choose to tell with him, whether it be his introductory one where he gets revenge on the people who threw him in prison for a couple of years, or the one I would prefer, where he tries to wipe out all human life on the planet via a plague. Yeah, kind of a no-brainer which one would make for a better story, frankly, but regardless, the Ratcatcher can control swarms, if not an entire legion of rats, to do what he wishes. And frankly, that's terrifying. Just imagine getting swarmed and eaten alive by a horde of rats. Yeah, the Ratcatcher's not one to be messed with, even if he's not the most physically imposing villain in Batman's Rogues Gallery. Up next on my villain wish list is none other than Killer Moth, the butt of DC's constant jokes. He's really someone I feel should get a lot more respect than he actually does. I think he can be a solid high C, low B tier villain in Batman's Rogues Gallery if given the chance. Honestly, I think if you give him some better tech, slightly muted his color scheme, and gave him a better costume, he could be a real threat. His cuckoo gun is a lot more terrifying than you think if you really think about it. But I digress. Honestly, he has good villain potential, though I could easily see him being a hired thug to act as someone's muscle, either Scarface or one of the local mobs. Though they could always adapt his first couple stories where he tries to act like the anti-Batman. That could be a fun story arc to explore, but either way, I'd like to see him finally show up and be taken somewhat seriously instead of being treated like the Electrocutioner in Arkham Origins, as hilarious as that one-hit KO was. Up next on my Arkham wish list is the Mad God himself, Maxi Zeus. Now, I love mythology, no matter where it comes from, so when you base yourself on a mythological figure, you're going to earn points with me regardless, so Maxi Zeus already has an upper hand against a lot of Batman villains. With how ridiculous his delusions are, I feel WB Montreal could really push the limit of how far Maxi Zeus is willing to show that he is a god, quote-unquote, in this universe, and they could really have some fun with that. Especially if Maxi Zeus gets some potential high-tech armor that allows him to manipulate electricity, kind of like the Electrocutioner did, just to a whole nother level. Though it all depends on which version of the character they go with. Do they go with the former history professor, like in some iterations in the comics, or do they go with the billionaire route from the Batman animated series? It's hard to tell, but regardless, I would hope that the final confrontation in his side mission takes place in Gotham City Olympus, as I always wanted to go into that club into Arkham City and just beat the crap out of him, since it was alluded to that he might be in there in that game. So and rounding out the villain wish list on this part of the video is none other than Prometheus. This is a character that a lot of people have wanted to show up in the Arkhamverse for a while, and I'm one of them, though I have a complicated relationship with this character. On one hand, he is a very, very credible threat thanks to his skills and his technology. And on the other hand, thanks to the storyline Cry for Justice, I hate this character with an ungodly passion, and love seeing him get his ass handed to him in every opportunity. So some of you might wonder, why do I want to see him show up if I hate him so much? Well, that's simple. I can easily see WB Montreal turning him into the combat equivalent of Mr. Freeze using his trademark helmet, which is the source of his abilities, which, if you don't know, allows him to download fighting styles and skills directly into his brain. So if they have it where Prometheus adapts to whatever combat move just damages him so the same trick doesn't work on him twice, I feel we could have a real challenge on our hands, and possibly rivaling the Deathstroke fight as the best boss fight in the series, at least from WB Montreal's. And the other reason I want to see him show up, and this one's personal, I wanted the opportunity to beat his skull in at the end of the boss fight before locking his child-murdering ass in jail. Well, that about wraps up this portion of the video. I'll try to get part 2 where I go into detail on some comic book villains who haven't shown up in the proper DC continuity for a long time, who I feel an Arkham game could really boost their popularity and give them the spotlight they deserve. So stay tuned to that. Subscribe if you want to see more. Drop a like if I somehow impressed you. And if you feel like I could do something better, drop a comment down below. Though, please don't just write, "You suck, bro. Get good." Trust me, I already know this video sucks, and I will try to do better in the future. This is Austin, signing out.
Greatly enhancing strength for a temporary period.